What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over Week 5's Thursday night showdown between Tampa and Atlanta. Atlanta minus 1.5, over under at 43.5. If you guys are new to the channel and haven't seen these spreadsheets yet, I have the key here. Blue is like, red is fade. Green is value, to where maybe the play's not as good, but for the price point, you can get some value out of it. And then yellow is just injury. So starting it off with Mike Evans, the most expensive on DraftKings. Fanduel, you get him a little cheaper. Bijan and Baker are more expensive than him on Fanduel, so get a little discount on Evans there. I think it's a good matchup for Mike Evans. Overall, Atlanta's secondary is not as good as I think at times they can be. And against this Tampa offense, who, when they need to get going, they go. Obviously, Chris Godwin's having an amazing season right now. Mike Evans really hasn't had to been put in that role that he was last season. It seems like with Godwin in the slot, they're getting just a lot of success out of it. So Mike Evans is kind of taking the back seat as far as receptions and yards, but he's still up there. It's not like he's not there, and the touchdowns, especially leading the team in red zone targets, so that's always a plus there. But overall, I think it's a good matchup for him. Chris Godwin, an amazing matchup, got the best matchup, best numbers versus zone against Atlanta. Second in red zone targets. We've seen the connection Baker and Godwin have had since the conversion to slot. Obviously, some receivers out in McMillan and Palmer, so we could see even more targets to Godwin and Evans in this matchup, so I like them both. Bijan's a like in this matchup, surprisingly, and that's because Tampa Bay has given up the second most receiving yards to running back so far this season, and Bijan somehow is tied for second on the team in reception. So I do think it's a tough one against someone like Vita Vea, who just, is a very good run-stopping defensive tackle. He's not going to get you a lot of pressures, but he's going to make it really hard to run up the middle. Bijan, we already know, gets a lot of snaps. We know Tyler Algier is still included heavily in the offense, in the run game. Tyler Algier is, if you look at Bijan's red zone numbers, they're terrible. He's, I think, 6 rushes for -1 yards, and Algier is 6 for like 28. The difference is crazy, but the receiving work, Bijan, is where you like him. Like I said, with what Tampa gives up, I really like that one. So Baker Mayfield, just because I like Mike Evans, I like Chris Godwin. I'll talk about the other pass catchers, but it's a like for Tampa's pass game. The run game is still good, but the pass game, where Atlanta's only gotten 4 sacks this season, given up a lot of third down conversions. I think they're top 10 in most points allowed per drive. So there's a lot to like with Baker Mayfield and that passing offense. He has a really good connection with Evans and Godwin. So really like Baker in this one as well. And he's gotten somehow 2 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games. So normally we don't see that from Baker as much, but lately he's been doing it. So props to him. Drake London, Kirk Cousins, both fades. Drake London, surprisingly, has worse numbers than Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod versus zone, which Tampa runs a lot of. It's an okay matchup for him. Honestly, he's got, if you're lining up and they're playing man, the best matchup, right? But in zone, and you're still lining up against them, he has the best, but it's kind of close for Ray McLeod, honestly. Kirk Cousins, like, you could go and look at what Tampa is giving up to opposing quarterbacks, and I think they're like top 5 in most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Majority of that comes through the run. I believe it's 4 rushing touchdowns, 160 yards, so a lot of points coming from mobile quarterbacks, which Kirk Cousins is not. We really haven't seen Kirk Cousins had an explosive game to where he's a must-play. Not saying that he hasn't had, good quarterback play, because he has. We've seen it. But for fantasy and especially DFS purposes here, he's yet to exceed 20 points. So you kind of need that on a slate. Honestly, this is very cheap for Kirk Cousins, though. So if you believe Kirk Cousins to have a good game somehow against this Tampa defense, you get him at a really good discount. Like, we don't see quarterbacks this cheap on Showdown slate often. Rashard White, I just prefer Bucky Irving just for a discount, honestly, on both sites. 400 on DraftKings, 500 on Fanduel. Bucky's just seeing more and more running back work. He somehow has taken over the red zone carries to where he now has more rushing attempts in the red zone than Rachaad White. So that's ridiculous. Like, as much as we love the in between the 20s, the red zone work is where it's at, right? You get 6 points for a touchdown. Unless you're a quarterback throwing it, you get 4, but you get 6 points, so that adds up. And if you could find those guys that are going to hit in these matchups, Bucky Irving kind of fits that. Would it surprise me if Rachaad White has a good game and has a better game than Bucky Irving? No, it doesn't. But for the price points, yeah, I'm going to prefer Bucky. Kyle Pitts in this one I like. It's a good matchup for Kyle Pitts. Second on the team in red zone attempts. Tampa obviously still dealing with a safety injury against this Tampa Bay defense to where we don't have the same coverage with linebackers. I think Kyle Pitts can get some opportunities in the middle of the field. I mentioned Tampa's good secondary, in my opinion. So I kind of like that middle of the field to where we're going to see someone like Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney in times, and Kyle Pitts. Those guys kind of get those opportunities. So that's why I have Kyle Pitts as like you're getting him cheaper than both Darnell Mooney and Drake London in this one. Both kickers, 9 times out of 10, I have both kickers as a like. It just is always a thing on showdowns. But in this one in particular, I love. You're getting 2 really good kickers. Younghoe Koo, top 15 kicker. Chase McLaughlin, also a top 15 kicker in points scored. Atlanta has the 4th worst red zone offense. So even if they get down to the red zone, right, I think they're 4 out of 10, I believe. They're not scoring. So 40% is actually pretty bad. Tampa is top 12 in yards allowed per drive. So that's something that means that teams are able to get down the field. They're just not able to score touchdowns. So I kind of like Younghoe Koo for that aspect. Chase McLaughlin, he's only had 1 game under 10 points so far this season. So if you're getting a guy whose floor is 1, it's 1 point, but he's been averaging 10 points in the other 3, I do like that outcome, and especially in a game like this to where it's a division game. Like that's the biggest thing. It's a division game, so these teams are gonna play tougher than normal. It's just how it is. Whether that's a reality you want to come to terms with or not, but when you face a division opponent and you have a rivalry, like you play harder. It just always happens. So in a division game, rivalry game, yes, I like both kickers in this one. I think we're gonna get a decent amount of kicking points tonight. Fading both defenses, the reason being is they're not getting a lot of takeaways. They're not getting sacks. Yeah, in this matchup to where I mentioned, they're going to play tougher. There's just not a lot of pass rush. Maybe Baker's thrown 2 interceptions in 4 games. We've seen Kirk kind of have some moments as well, too. I'm just not bought in on both these defenses. Like, I'd prefer the kickers at, a premium price compared to the defenses than playing the defenses the way they played. K-Dot and the like here. We've seen him get 17 targets in the last 2 games. Definitely having a connection. Atlanta has not played against tight ends too well. Granted, K-Dot's upside isn't the greatest, but he's 3rd on the team in red zone targets. Obviously, when it's pretty much just Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, you don't need to throw anybody else in. But K-Dot is number 3 on that. Ray McLeod, a value for me, just his price point, especially on FanDuel 7,500. Out of all the Atlanta wide receivers against zone, Ray McLeod actually has the best numbers. Darnell Mooney, a big deep ball threat as well, but I like Ray McLeod. If I had to pick a Atlanta wide receiver for the price point and the numbers, it's Ray McLeod tonight, so I really like him. And then topping it off with Sterling Shepard, with Palmer and McMillan both out. Sterling Shepard figures to slide into that role, having a connection in before with Baker Mayfield. For his price point, I'm okay with playing, right? $1,600 on DraftKings, really cheap on FanDuel. looking at these teams, normally I have a list, a longer list, but there's not enough guys on these teams worth even putting out there. There's not a lot of value tonight, honestly. Guys that are under 3K or guys under 8K on Fanduel. There's not a lot of that tonight. So you're just picking and choosing what guys you want to fade in your lineup or lineups tonight, and going from there, right? Honestly, I think you have to have a kicker tonight in your lineup. I don't know which one, right? No one does. We could say we go Atlanta kicker. Tampa kicker scores more. We go Tampa and Atlanta. But I do think a kicker is going to be definitely almost a must tonight, and you're just banking on which offense is going to struggle more or which defense is going to play better. So hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you guys did, please leave a like and subscribe. I will have more videos going out for the main slate later this week, so definitely tune into that. If you guys want my full spreadsheets for not only the showdowns but the main slate, that's accessible at any time, as well as bets and props and any fantasy or DFS questions you guys have, click the link for the Discord below. We have a very cheap subscription package for a lot that you get, and you definitely get your money's worth. So hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you in the next one.